What's up, Packer fans? The 2022 preseason is over, and all the stats are in the books for what these guys did during the training camp and in those games to try to get on to a roster. Roster final cuts are Tuesday, August 30th, so that's just after this weekend. Pretty much, I'm sure that a lot of these positions are already etched out in stone. It's basically just the last kind of maybe 5 or 6 guys at the end of the roster where they're trying to figure out what to do, where they want to put people and all that. But my main thing is, what did Jordan Love do in the preseason? I think he was really good. I guess a lot of the statistics might not prove what I'm saying. And if you listen to the media at all this last week or, even today about Jordan Love and his progress, they'd probably have you thinking that he is a bust. He, hasn't developed at all in these 3 years, and that, the Packers made a mistake by trading up to get him. He went, I don't think he went higher than what Kenny Pickett went. I think Pickett went 20th. So if Love was after Pickett, and Pickett, he looks good too. I don't want to make this about Pickett, but I'm just saying where they drafted Jordan Love wasn't as much of a reach as people think, based on the fact that Pickett was drafted where he was and there were so many questions about him. He was the only quarterback really drafted in the first round this year, and not a lot of prospects or teams thought that he was going to be a highly touted prospect. He's done well in the preseason, but that's against like 2s and 3s. So just kind of making the reference, just that I don't think where they drafted him was a horrible decision. All the things surrounding Rodgers and his not being told about the draft, whatever your thoughts about that whole situation, how they handled the pick, and who they missed out by drafting him, like Justin Jefferson, things of that nature. I get all that. That I understand, and that's a bummer too, because that might have been the piece of the puzzle that put us over the top, having a guy like Justin Jefferson. But whatever, we have Jordan Love. They're planning for the future. They thought Aaron Rodgers was kind of declining. He had been with McCarthy. LaFleur kind of revamped his career, drafting Jordan Love, and then he won 2 MVPs. So it was kind of the little catalyst that bumped him to really try to prove that he was still the guy. Aaron Rodgers and that ego, he wasn't going to let some rookie walk in and, show him up. So he went out and did what he did, but he contributes a lot of that to the ayahuasca trip and his ego, death and all that. Go watch my ayahuasca video about that one with Aaron Rodgers. But anyway, so Jordan Love, he finally, after his rookie year, where he walked in with COVID, he didn't have COVID, but I mean, maybe he got COVID, but COVID was occurring across, the world, and so there wasn't off-season workouts, there wasn't OTAs, there wasn't training camp, there wasn't a preseason, there wasn't a whole lot going on for these rookies in 2020. So he came out of Utah State, a smaller school, so he obviously was a developmental prospect coming out. He didn't have a whole lot of success in college, but he played well. You could see the measurables were there. 6'4", athletic, big arm, and you can see this arm. He's got a laser beam for real. He gunslings that in there. He really does. So, but anyway, so this guy coming out obviously was a prospect. You could tell that that's what was going to be with, or how it was going to be with him. He was going to have to sit behind Rodgers. He wasn't going to come in and take Rodgers' job anytime soon. And kind of the, Aaron Rodgers, Brett Favre method where you let him sit. I think if he sits this year, this will be his 3rd year, maybe even next year, just to add that 4th year because of his COVID year. That might really put him in a position where he could kind of hit the ground running. I hope Rodgers stays at least after one more year after this one, so it could work out perfectly. I think Love would be kind of a big hit on the salary cap as a backup quarterback if they did sign him to a second contract, but I think to prepare for the future, maybe they can restructure something else with Rodgers and kind of make it a little more team friendly. But anyway, so Love having COVID year, and then last year, oh my gosh, last year with Rodgers, it's a beautiful mystery, and I don't know if I'm coming, I don't know if I'm going to retire. I'm 50-50. and then him showing up later on in camp. All that surrounding Jordan Love, he might say it doesn't affect him. He might say he's about his business, but it's always in his mind, okay, well, I'm the guy right now, but as soon as he shows up, he's the guy, That's a lot of pressure, especially when you're still learning the offense. That was him really in his first, off-season program last year, dealing with all that. That's a lot of drama, especially when you have the MVP, Aaron Rodgers, kind of, hovering over you at all times. So I totally understand, maybe the delay in progress for a guy like Jordan Love. He really has the athletic measurables, and he just looked kind of lost, deer in the headlights, didn't really understand what was going on with a lot of the plays. And so it was really a tough, a couple of seasons for him. The preseason last year was kind of brutal. He played against the Chiefs. He did okay. He had a touchdown and a pick, and we only lost by 3, so he kept us in it. The defense played well. And then he played a few times. I think he played against the Lions at the end of the year. He actually scored the game-leading drive at the end, and then the Lions scored the winning drive against the Packers' backup defense. So, he played okay. So I really liked what I saw kind of throughout the season. I think that Kansas City Chiefs game last year was really a big stepping stone for him, just to get some real action at a place like Arrowhead. And I think he really, responded well. Obviously, there was a lot of miscues and mistakes. He was off with a lot of receivers, but otherwise, I think he played well. So after all that, we come into this preseason, and I had done a video earlier before the training camp started, should the Packers trade Love? And I really thought they shouldn't at the time. I thought, maybe if he had a really good preseason, his trade value would be the highest at any point that has been so far. And, they did draft him so high, so if they could recoup something, and then they'd have to focus on their future later at quarterback after Rodgers. But there's a lot of guys coming out of the draft, and you never know with trades and things like that. So I thought, depending on the preseason, it would determine whether we would keep him or try to get rid of him, or if they'd sign somebody else. Maybe he just wasn't going to cut it. There was a lot of question marks surrounding how he would look, what his development might look like, and where he'd be as a quarterback in year 3 after everything that's gone on surrounding his career to this point. So his first game against the Niners, that's kind of a tough environment too, especially going back to San Fran, or playing against San Fran last year. We played in Green Bay in the playoffs, but you know what I mean, just that team again. Love played well, but it was the first time those rookie receivers were out there. A lot of those other guys' first time being out on the field, like in an actual NFL game. And it started out okay, it really did, but 3 turnovers in that game for Love. It was really a bad look. But 2 of them, basically one got ripped out of Romeo Doubs' hands, and the other one tipped off of Juwan Winfrey's hand. So 2 balls that should have been caught weren't. And so throughout the whole preseason, Jordan Love was 41 of 74 for 437 yards, 3 touchdowns, 4 interceptions, was sacked only twice in 3 games, which, he didn't play the whole games, but that's really pretty good stat, getting rid of the ball and, at least being able to scramble, feeling the pressure, things of that nature. His QBR, though, the one that's out of 158.3, that one was only 64%. He only completed 55% of his passes, the 41 for 74. However, the crazy part about all this is that he had the most big-time throws out of any quarterback in the whole preseason with 5, and he had, this is a crazy stat, a drop rate on his passes of 24%. So he passed it 74 times, 24%, that's about a quarter of those 74. So that's about 18 drops out of the 74 that, should have been caught. So if you add those, his numbers skyrocket to like 79% completion percentage, and you erase 2 of those interceptions, and then his QBR goes up to about 90 or so. And but that's at 18. Let's say you just cut that number in half, so it's nine were still dropped, but 9 of those were caught. If he was playing with the starters, if he had a little more time with some of these guys in practice, things of that nature, maybe the timing would be on more, and they would have caught those balls. So you just add half of those drops, and you put them at about 68% completion percentage, which is Aaron Rodgers' career average. You can't look at exactly what happens, especially in these preseason games. These numbers, they're playing with these receivers that are 4, 5, 6, 7th on the depth chart, guys that don't even just got signed yesterday, that come in and are trying to run routes, and you get this game's so much about timing, especially between the receivers and the quarterback. That's why they call them timing routes, because they're all about timing. The 3-step throw, the guy has to be getting into his break as the throw is there, and they have to know where the break's, what way he's going on his break, so he knows where he's throwing it. Otherwise, he's going inside, you're throwing outside, that's picked. He's going outside, so you're throwing in, and you're throwing inside, that's picked. So it's all about timing, and a lot of these drops, were just young player mistakes, things of that nature. You had Tyler Davis, you had Dobbs dropping a bunch of them, Winfrey dropped a few. I know Amari Rodgers, I think, dropped a couple, but he actually looked really good anyway. But, so some of those guys weren't really helping Love. Even if he I just think he played really well yesterday. You could see the development from each game. He just seemed to be more comfortable. Overall, I think he clearly knows the offense better. He understood the protections. He understood the run checks and the run audibles, which is huge for a young quarterback. Once they get that down, it's the difference between a 2-yard run and a 4 to 6 yard run, which sets up a way better second down. Instead of 2nd and 8, it's 2nd and 4 or something. So knowing how to do those run checks is huge. I think he really showed that his command of the offense. He knew, before the snap, he kind of could read the coverage, and then after the snap, post snap, he was really decisive with his reads. He'd go through his reads efficiently, and when he actually threw, he has an arm. This guy's got a rocket. You could tell that his long ball, I don't think he completed a lot of those. I don't really think he completed many of them. But, you could see that he had a good ball at least, something you could work with there. And then some of these timing routes, these cross patterns, to Winfrey, to Rodgers. Rodgers had a really nice one last night in, double coverage. I thought it was incomplete, but, Love gunned it in there, and it was really a nice play. He had a lot of, scrambles where he got out of the pocket, felt the pressure, stayed in it as long as he could, felt the pressure, got outside. There was one where, he almost got away but got tackled from behind. A few of them where it was like that, where he, kind of got away. But there was one where he got, hit at the 1, kind of spin moved out of it and got back up to the 9. It would have been a big loss or almost a safety, and he was able to make something out of nothing, get back kind of to, I think, the line of scrimmage at that point, so he was pretty far back. But, he showed his athleticism. He showed that he really understood what he was trying to do out there. You could tell that he had command of the offense, and I think he's a fun player to watch. He's got a lot to learn still. There's just so much about this game that you need to learn just by playing it. You're not going to learn it from anything else but playing it. That's what these young guys need to come in and do. Peyton Manning, I think he still has the record for the most interceptions by a rookie. I think it was 28 or something like that. So if Peyton Manning can come in and, learn by just making mistakes, then you got to believe that other quarterbacks can do the same thing. And so far, Love's had a really nice, kind of landing strip where he's had Rodgers kind of take on all the heat and everything, and he's the starter, and Love's kind of just been able to develop. I know there's been kind of a lot surrounding his development, but still, he's able to still focus on himself and not have all the pressure of having to start like other guys who were first-round picks. Trey Lance now, a lot of heat for him coming out to start. His numbers are about the same as Jordan Love's, which is why the two are, to me, are really comparable. Both athletic, both have big arms, both went to smaller schools, and both probably got drafted way higher than they were supposed to, and the team traded up to get them. And both teams had quarterbacks that started and had success for their teams. So it caused kind of issues with all that. So there's a lot of pressure on both of these guys. But for Love, it's a little bit easier because Rodgers, is the starter. He's MVP, and he's going to be here until he doesn't want to be here. But Love just really looked like he developed so much more than he did last year. And even that Chiefs game, you could see the progress. His timing on the routes with the receivers, all that stuff was a lot more crisp. He didn't really have a lot of bad plays on his own. Like I said, 2 of those interceptions were because wide receivers dropped it, young receivers dropped it. 2 of them, were on him, but the one yesterday was kind of a 50-yard bomb on 3rd and 5, where he kind of just went for it. Thought it was a too high or a single high safety, and they switched to a 2 high safety. It was a Tampa 2, and the free safety swung around, or I don't know, he might have been the strong safety, swung around and picked it off. Love's going to learn from that. He's going to go back, watch that, be like, oh, that's what I missed. I thought, I pre-read this, and they switched to that. So if I key that and then I see that, then I know that, there's a lot that goes into it all. But I hope that it's just a learning tool for him. It really wasn't a horrible idea, though. They were at their own 45-yard line. It would have been tough to even get in field goal range, especially for a kicker like Ramiz Ahmed. So it would have been nice to see him try to kick a long one, but I still think that it was a good shot. He thought he could throw him open. If that safety wasn't there, it was a good throw, but he came up over the top. So it ended up being almost like triple coverage by the time the ball got to the I think it was a big tight end out there, actually. I don't think that was a receiver, so I think it might have been Tyler Davis trying to get downfield. But, yeah, so he took a shot, and no real, nothing in the game was really lost. They didn't get a chance to kick the field goal. Maybe that would have been nice, a little momentum in a real game. So in a real game, maybe don't do that. But in that situation, I don't see an issue with it. It wasn't like he was really trying to, read and react and make a perfect throw, and then he just saw it all wrong. He just took a shot, and it got picked. That happens a lot. It was like a Hail Mary kind of thing at the end of the half. So if you eliminate those things and those drops and all that, his numbers really wouldn't be as bad as reflected on paper. The media was just so after him, and I'm just like, take a look at the actual numbers. 5 big-time throws, and you probably remember some of them. The Dobbs one in the end zone, the Samari Torre one in that first game, and then the Juwan Winfrey one against the Saints where he's doing the crosser, and he gets him down on the sideline between double coverage. So that was a big time throw. He really looks good. He just, when he lets it go, when he's got his feet down and gets his footwork right, he really does have a nice ball. You'd have to ask the receivers how catchable it is. I think Rodgers throws the most catchable ball probably ever in the league. Ask all the receivers that have played with him, they say it's him. But so for Love to, be the guy that has to be the one that they transition to when they're practicing from Rodgers, it might be tough, but I still think it looks really nice coming out of his hand, and he's got arm strength, which in Green Bay in the winter you need. Like I said, he's a big kid, 6'4", he's bigger than Rodgers, he's athletic, more athletic than Rodgers now since Rodgers is 38. So, I've just really enjoyed watching how he has grown so far, in the last couple of years here. I think sitting behind Rodgers this year, maybe getting some time and some cleanup time or whatever, just getting out there, whether they're losing or winning. Hopefully it's because the Packers are winning. And then hopefully Week 18 against the Lions at home in Lambeau, the Packers get to maybe sit their guys if they need to, or maybe level start the second half because the Packers got the 1 seed or something like that, so kind of like last year. Kind of interesting, we played Detroit again, but this time it's at home. yeah, last year because of the extra game, NFC played an extra road game, and now this year they get an extra home game. So that's pretty cool. Just something to look for, I think. So, um, yeah, that's the last two games are the Vikings and the Lions. So if you do see Love, or if there is a huge, injury to Rodgers, knock on wood, I always do that. At the end of the season, we might see Love if that's what happens. So, you never know. You never know where they're going to need the guy. For the last couple of years, like I said, after the COVID thing, and then all the Rodgers drama, Tim Boyle was on the team too, and he was the second quarterback. Now he's the second quarterback in Detroit, but for Love, it's like they didn't even like him enough to put him as the second QB just because he didn't know the offense yet. He didn't really grasp all the concepts. He really wasn't understanding what they were asking him to do, and Tim Boyle was way ahead of him, and you could see it. They actually had, I think, Taysom Hill his rookie year, but maybe that was the year before that. So, but still, I mean, they bring in quarterbacks. Even Danny Etling. I know this is about Jordan Love, but I just want to read you Danny Etling's numbers because very impressive. Even though he was playing the 3s, the 4s, the 5s, the 6s, maybe the 7s on some, depending on the position group. But Danny Etling was 17 for 22 for 220 yards, 1 touchdown and no picks, and that one long 51-yard rush touchdown with a QBR of 123% out of 158.3. So that's pretty, percentage. Yeah, so that's crazy. I mean, what a preseason for him. 6'6" out of LSU. He's a guy that can really play. He played against really good competition in college, and I think I just liked what I saw to him. But anyway, so Love, not a lot of pressure from Etling, not like with how it was with Tim Boyle, where Boyle basically was the second quarterback, and Jordan Love wasn't even on the game day starting roster. Really, I don't even think he suited up for a lot of those games his first year, or part of that. Well, last year he was in there, but was the guy. But still, it's going in and not getting that confidence. I think Rodgers was pretty much the backup to Favre, immediately, and that's how they looked at it. So, just a lot of pressure on Jordan Love. I like that he kind of came out and just played his own game. He wasn't trying to do something or play a way that he, wasn't comfortable with. He stayed within his realm of, how he plays, and I liked what I saw, and I just, all this flack about he just hasn't developed, and I'm like, how do you look at how he played, last year in preseason, and then look at this year and not see huge growth when it comes to pretty much every aspect of analyzing what's happening pre-snap and post-snap, like, and then the results. You can't knock him for things that aren't in his control. So, I just really like what I saw. Hopefully, we keep seeing it from him. Hopefully, we have Rodgers for a long time. He stays healthy and wins, the back-to-back Super Bowls now, and then Love can take over in 2 years or something. But that's just hope. And so, but yeah, so anyway, Jordan Love, hope you have a great season, and I think that you really did good this preseason finally. It was nice to see some production, see whatever all the work has been for. It kind of has all come together, and I finally feel good about having him as the backup in case, if Rodgers gets hurt or has a stinger and gets a concussion, knock on wood on all of it. If anything like that happens, I know he broke his collarbone twice. Both of those should be basically bracketed into place, so they shouldn't break anymore. But if he does have any issues, I think Love can come in and win us some games, especially with how this defense is. At least, kind of be the Band-Aid until Rodgers can get back if something like that did happen, God forbid. But, injuries happen in football. It's a violent game, and that's how it goes. So it's good to have a guy like that who already has some connection with, Dobbs and Winfrey. So I really like that, just where his progress is at. And I think people need to reanalyze the numbers a little bit more, because it doesn't it's not as bad as it looks on paper. You really just got to watch him play, not get all your stats from, people on the ground that, might have a different perspective or be looking at different things. You need to really watch yourself and see, okay, this guy, the throws are precise and he's reading and seeing what's happening and making good decisions for the most part, making good decisions. So I just like where he's at. So, all right, guys, that is the Jordan Love video. Like and subscribe. It helps the logarithm, I guess. I don't know how YouTube works, but that's what they say. So appreciate it, and thank you guys for watching the video. Go Packers, and see you in the next one. Peace.